He's out, not going to be governor, and he is denying it. Sexual misconduct allegations.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They are absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened, and I will fight them with everything that I have. They also come on the eve of an election where I have been the front-runner candidate for governor in California.
How this controversy could snowball into something much bigger for more members of Congress, and what is happening in our nation's capital. There's bedlam in the streets, a violent mob involving hundreds of teens. Where are their parents? In just a moment, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, joins me to discuss the chaos, the arrests, and what is being done to keep the streets safe in the face of this uncontrollable nightly mob. Also had the Pope and the President exchanging barbs.
I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo.
I have no fear of neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel.
And we all saw this amazing moment of the Artemis 2 astronauts returning to Earth. Well, something happened when one of the astronauts got home. We have it caught on video. You're going to see it. I'm not showing it to you yet. You're just going to have to stick around to see it. Trust me, it's worth it. But first, it's not looking good for the ceasefire with Iran, and President Trump is threatening the worst. Right now, the U.S. has imposed a blockade on all Iranian ports. The United States says it will intercept or capture ships leaving Iran. Earlier today, in a Truth Social post, the president wrote, quote, "Warning, if any of these ships come anywhere close to our blockade, they will be immediately eliminated using the same system of kill that we use against the drug dealers on boats at seas. It's quick and brutal," end quote. So why the blockade? The U.S. is using the blockade to force Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz and accept a peace deal. Iran is responding with threats on all ports in the Persian Gulf and the Gulf of Oman. At the White House earlier, President Trump defended his actions.
We can't let a country blackmail or extort the world, because that's what they're doing. They're really blackmailing the world. We're not going to let that happen.
Now to our nation's capital, where over the weekend a rowdy mob of teenagers took to the streets, got into fights, and attacked police. At least 4 minors were arrested. All 4 were arrested for disorderly conduct. One of them was also arrested for assaulting a police officer. It happened in an area of D.C. called the Navy Yard. It's not the first time teams have stormed this area, nor other popular areas in D.C. In an attempt to discourage these youth takeovers, D.C. has established curfews for teens under 18, but emergency legislation that implemented the curfews will expire in 2 days. United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro, joins me. Nice to see you, Jeanine.
Nice to be with you.
And I got to tell you, I've lived here forever, and since you got to town, I'm not going to give you all the credit. Besides those mobs, which I don't blame you for, it feels safer in this town.
Oh, thank you. You know, it is a joint effort, and between the president's decision to pour resources into D.C. and the coordination between the local and the federal agencies, and the fact that my office, we've changed our policy. We're going forward on all the arrests, other than 10% of the arrests, to make sure that people are accountable. And, you know, it's tough. It's been very tough, this surge on the prosecutors in my office. We work around the clock. But I think it makes a difference. It's palpable. The streets were not safe. You had the 4th highest murder rate in the country 2 years ago. I mean, think of that. This is the nation's capital.
Even the road that I drove down until actually you came to town is that I drive down a main thoroughfare, and it was at, you know, one of my shows at 6 and 7 o'clock at night. You looked because you were worried about carjackers.
Yeah, it's carjackers and kids with guns and, you know, all kinds of hoopla that's going on where kids feel emboldened. They're not at all threatened. They don't see consequences. And it's like the Wild West. It really is. It was, and I'm from New York, Greta. I mean, as are you. But I mean, think about it.
I'm Wisconsin. I'm a cheesehead.
Huh?
I'm from Wisconsin.
Yeah, I knew you'd go there. But we spent a lot of our professional years in New York.
So what's with these mobs? And I mean, how do you? I mean, these are juveniles, which puts in a whole different category. The law is different for juveniles and adults. What do you? I mean, how can you possibly? What are you going to do about this? What's the answer?
Well, I'll tell you what I want to do about it, and I've been doing it since the day I got into D.C. We've got adult crime down. I mean, you know, whether it's robberies, burglaries, whether it's homicides, everything is down exponentially since the surge. But the only thing that hasn't changed is youth crime. And there is this mentality that the D.C. Council has that these kids need to be coddled. They need to be protected. They shouldn't be brought into the criminal justice system. And you and I both know, Greta, we come from states states where kids are responsible legally 16, 17, 18. And here in D.C., it's not until they're 18 unless it's Title 16.
Well, some of these crimes are being committed by 15, 14, and 13. There was one case before you got here where I think it was 5 girls, and the oldest one was 15, kicked some poor guy to death.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I said we've got to lower the age of accountability. Who can do that? The D.C. Council. They don't want to do it. These bozos on the D.C. Council, most of them, they don't even want to allow for a discretionary curfew during the week the kids are on vacation.
What's with that curfew to expire in 2 days?
Well, it's expiring. They voted 9 to 4 to put it off until after the school vacation is over.
What's their objection to it?
You know, you're going to have to put them in this seat and ask them, because everyone in this city is entitled to a safe city, the ability to live in quiet enjoyment. The businesses should be entitled to not worry about kids overrunning the neighborhood, about a stampede that gets out of control, about whatever these kids are doing. They're fighting. We've got a fray where it's called mutual combat, where there is a sexual assault. I mean, it's crazy.
Well, you know, it's funny. I mean, you and I come from different sides of the aisle in terms of you were a prosecutor, I was a defense attorney, and I played that tape last week of you talking about a guy who got 29 years, and he's, I think, 21 years old or something. And at the end, you know, it struck me when I played it, because I've known you for years, you said, what a waste. And I thought, you know, I could sort of feel that, you know, that you felt the sensitivity, like it really is so tragic that some of these young people, you know, we can't let them do terrible things, but 29 years, and, you know, what do you do?
You know, you really sensed me very well. That's because you know me very well, Greta. When I see these young kids who are allowed from the time they're 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 to commit these outrageous crimes, I get them when they're 18, they commit a murder. I'm into 30 years at this point. This is a murder. You took a life. And yet there was no intervention. The family court and the Office of the Attorney General, their focus is not deterrence, it's not punishment, it's not retribution, it's rehabilitation. They are not rehabilitating. So give these kids and me a chance where I can say to them, you know what, there's a consequence here. That doesn't mean I can't rehabilitate them. Of course I can. But get them into the criminal justice system sooner so they don't do it carjacking, then an armed carjacking, then an assault, and then a robbery, and then an armed robbery. I mean, let them know that they're going to get stopped.
Well,
and it's not happening here.
You can tell that you are relatively new to the town. You call him Attorney General. And it's probably been Attorney General for a long time. We used to call it Corporation Counsel. And they did virtually nothing to sort of help these kids then. The only change I could see is they got a new name. It went from being called Corporation Counsel to being called Attorney General. But there was nothing for these kids.
Yeah. And unfortunately, you know, these kids, let's talk about a curfew. The kids get arrested. And they go to a special, it's like our C-10 in the criminal part. They go to a special section. It's called, I think it's JM-15. And they basically are not released unless a parent or guardian picks them up. And if they don't come and pick them up, then somebody from Division of Family and Children's Services comes to get them. Okay, so there is some recognition that parents should be involved. They've got to be more involved. But the truth is, with the D.C. Council giving free rein, these kids go to the family court, they go to youth, the yoga or some kind of ice cream social, they're let go, and that's the end of it.
Well, what about, I mean, like these 5 girls that kicked this poor guy to death? I mean, and they were out latest after midnight. I don't know if there's a curfew then or not. But what about, I mean, is there any sort of, you know, the parents aren't doing anything. I mean, and, you know, how do you hold the parents? I mean, the parents could be your intervention in some ways, but parents, there's no law. I mean, some states you're seeing parents being prosecuted. You're seeing more and more of that, like where they give the kid a gun knowing the kid's got, you know, anger issues.
Yeah, you see, that's a little clearer case. You and I have been, you know, tackling this issue for many years. How responsible should parents be for young kids who commit crimes? If you give your kid a gun and you know that kid is going to use the gun, you know what? As far as I'm concerned, there's accessorial conduct there, and you should be liable.
8 and a better.
Yeah.
8 and a better.
Yeah, you're an 8 or a better. So, but the problem now is that a lot of these parents are not around. They come from a dysfunctional family, you know, so there's no one to keep these kids together. And if we're relying on family court and thinking that they're going to rehabilitate them, they're not. And the proof is in the pudding, because when I get them, they've got all kinds of records like this, and no one's done a damn thing.
If you could have a magic wand for one law to create in this city to help you, what do you need?
I would lower the age of accountability. I would lower it 14, 15, 16, and 17. I could graduate it in terms of the crime, but I've got to have 16 and 17-year-olds subject to my jurisdiction, or else the city goes to hell, no matter what we do with the adults. Wait until this summer, Greta. It's only going to get worse.
U.S. Attorney Jeanine Pirro for the District of Columbia, my old friend.
My old pal, Greta.
And one of my dear old friends. Anyway, nice to see you.
Good to see
Thank
you.
you for joining me. Coming up, is President Trump in a feud with Pope Leo XIV? That one, the record continues.
All across the nation.
So we heard a lot about Gaza recently. We're going to head down there, check it out.
We're going to be doing our show right here from Minneapolis.
People can't stop talking
I agree mostly with a guy from Newsmax.
We're not all bad dudes.
about Carl Higbie.
Oh, yeah? What are you going to do? Will you come take it out of my ham? I'm going to eat half this plate during the break. Maybe I'll call the ICE hotline. I don't know if I'll have enough time.
And Frontline for the big news they need to know. Watch Carl Higbie, Frontline.
Before Apoquel Chewable for allergic itch, giving dogs pills was a battle of wits.
Oh, Maria, I'm wise to your foolish game.
Is it gone?
Totally gone.
Relief for itchy dogs can be easier. Apoquel, the trusted #1 treatment for allergic itch, is available in a tasty chewable that works fast.
May cause worsening of existing parasitic skin infestations, serious infections, or pre-existing cancers. New neoplasias have been observed. Do not use in dogs under 12 months of age with serious infections or in breeding, pregnant, or lactating dogs.
Ask your vet for Apoquel Chewable.
Do it!
Refresh your home during the Cabinets to Go annual clearance event. Our April sale has the best deals of the year on cabinets, closets, accents, and more. Don't miss out on custom-style cabinets up to 65% off. Or treat your wardrobe right with 70% off gracious home closets. Plus a free 3D design. And with special open Sunday hours, you can find a kitchen that fits your home and budget on your schedule. If you hurry. The April sale ends April 14th. Only at Cabinets to Go. Designed to wow.
During the Omaha Steak Spring Savings Event, prices are going down. Save up to 50% with entrees about $5 per serving. Order now to get 8 burgers free. This spring, watch the prices fall at omahasteaks.com/TV.
Millions of Americans rely on a statin to reduce cholesterol, but statins can deplete CoQ10 levels. I recommend Cunol CoQ10 with 3 times better absorption and the #1 cardiologist recommended form. It helps replenish what statins deplete. Cunol, the brand I trust.
President Trump is now taking on Pope Leo XIV. You punch at Trump, he punches back. Doesn't matter who you are. And today the president said this regarding the Pope.
We don't like a pope that's going to say that it's okay to have a nuclear weapon. We don't want a pope that says crime is okay in our cities. I don't like it. I'm not a big fan of Pope Leo. He's a very liberal person, and he's a man that doesn't believe in stopping crime.
So why did the president say this? Well, because on Saturday the Pope said this regarding the war in Iran.
Basta con l'idolatria di se stessi e del denaro. Basta con l'esibizione della forza. Basta con la guerra. A loro gridiamo: fermatevi. È il tempo della pace. Sedete ai tavoli del dialogo e della mediazione, non ai tavoli dove si pianifica il riarmo e si deliberano azioni di morte. La follia della guerra abbia termine.
But the trade of words did not end there. Following President Trump's remarks, Pope Leo XIV then said this.
I have no fear of neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel. And that's what I believe I am called to do, what the church is called to do. We're not politicians. We're not looking to make foreign policy, as he calls it, with the same perspective that he might understand it. But I do believe that the message of the gospel, blessed are the peacemakers, is a message that the world needs to hear today.
And it did not end there. Hours ago, President Trump repeated his criticism of Pope Leo XIV.
There's nothing to apologize for. He's wrong. The other thing is he didn't like what we're doing with respect to Iran, but Iran is wants to be a nuclear nation so they can exterminate the world. Not going to happen.
Meanwhile, what is the Pope doing today? Well, the Pope kicked off his 10-day trip to Africa. While in Africa, the Pope will visit 4 countries. Foreign correspondent Anneliese Taggart is live in Algiers, Algeria, with the latest. Anneliese.
Hi, Greta. Well, great to see you. Now, this morning, as we were preparing to board the papal plane to cover this historic trip for Pope Leo, we woke up to some of those comments that President Trump made about the pontiff, again, reiterating that he thinks he is terrible at dealing with foreign policy. Now, once we were on the papal plane, we were awaiting to see if Pope Leo would respond to this, and if he did, what his response would look like. As we know, the Pope did issue a very direct response saying that he has no fear of the Trump administration.
I have no fear of neither the Trump administration nor speaking out loudly about the message of the gospel. And that's what I believe. I am called to do what the church is called to do. We're not politicians. We're not manipulating foreign policy, as he calls it, with the same perspective that he might understand it. But I do believe in the message of the gospel. Blessed are the peacemakers. It's a message of the Lord.
Now, this exchange, it sets the backdrop for the messages of peace and reconciliation that Pope Leo is set to deliver across the continent of Africa over these next 10 days. Now, here in Algeria is his first stop of this whirlwind trip. So far today, he has visited one of the largest mosques in the world. He has also visited a monument here in Algeria that commemorates those killed in the very bloody Algerian civil war for their independence from France. Now, he has also addressed the authorities here in Algeria, where he denounced what he called the continuous breakaway of international law. Now, this historic trip for Pope Leo, it is not only unfolding against the backdrop of the war in Iran, but also with this escalated exchange with President Trump. Greta?
Anneliese Taggart, thank you. Former Republican Senator from the great state of Pennsylvania, Rick Santorum, joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And boy, this is a hot potato when you get between the Pope and President Trump. Your thoughts?
You know, look, I have some sympathy for Donald Trump on this one because, you know, I think he looks at it as, you know, he is doing something that really needed to be done. The world needed to stop Iran, which is a radical Muslim theocracy that believes that their theology is to bring about the end of the world through some sort of Armageddon type event. That's what they believe. And so they can't have a nuclear weapon because they're bound to use it because that's what their theology tells them. And so the president feels like he's doing something to, in a sense, save the world and stop some horrible wrong. And then he sees the Pope criticize him. And I think I just obviously didn't take it very well. Having said that, I think the words the president used toward the Pope were unkind. And I understand it's Trump being Trump, but he is the Pope, and he's someone who is loved and respected by, you know, over 1 billion people around the world. And I just don't think it was a smart political move or right for him to do that.
Well, sort of stepping back, sort of globally look at this whole issue, not just with the Pope, but with world leaders. I think almost everybody, with the exception of a very few, say that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon, and that it would be you know, catastrophic if Iran got one. But people think that we should use diplomacy, and I'm all in favor of diplomacy when it works. Now, obviously, I'm not going to be sent to war to fight this, so it's, you know, easy for me to say sitting in the comfort of a studio in Washington D.C. But on the other hand, is that, you know, when has diplomacy worked? They have lied to us consistently. They had a nuclear weapons program. They said they didn't have. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, so many people put faith in this diplomacy and negotiation with them, but if you look back, we've tried this and we have failed, or it hasn't worked.
Yeah, I know the Pope doesn't be reminded that his predecessors called on crusades. So it's not like, you know, the church has always been against a just war. And in fact, the Pope, who is an Augustinian, that's his, you know, he went to an Augustinian college and he was running the Augustinian order. St. Augustine was the author of something which is a core Catholic teaching called just war theory. And St. Augustine, who he knows very well, says that there are, in fact, just wars, that peace, while it is certainly the goal and the desire and something to be worked at times it can't be obtained because you have someone like these radical theocrats who have no desire for peace. They have a desire for war. That's what they want. They want a nuclear weapon to use it. And so they have to be stopped. And what the Pontiff should have talked about is whether this is a just war. And he certainly can give his opinion. However, having said that, the president has his, if he goes through that same process, which maybe he doesn't specifically, but I think most people who go through a decision to go to war go through that. I think he has a prudential judgment too, and frankly, he has information that the Pontiff doesn't have. So I think he needs to cut the president some slack on this, and he didn't.
Do you think the Pontiff would actually be welcome in Iran to talk to anybody?
I can't imagine. I mean, other than for a propaganda tool. Yeah, I mean, look, I mean, they're not beyond using the Pope as a tool, but I can't imagine he would commit himself to something like that. This is not a regime that has shown any intention of keeping any promises or trying to mediate anything. They are convicted. Give them credit for that. They really believe what they want to accomplish. This is their theology, and they are sticking to it, and a nuclear weapon is part and parcel of that as far as they see it.
Senator Rick Santorum, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Coming up, President Trump dealt a legal defeat, but the federal judge is giving the president another option. I will explain when the record continues.
Information. Truth is freedom. Is Newsmax. It's real news for real people.
Doctors say having a medical emergency kit is like having an urgent care and pharmacy at home. Let me bring in Dr. McCullough to explain more.
Most people know when they're getting sick, but waiting to see a doctor is often too late.
So the key is having medicines before you need them.
Yes, and it includes doctor-prescribed medicines to treat common and serious issues like generic Z-Pak, amoxicillin, antibiotics, antivirals for flu, pneumonia, strep, ear and sinus infections, UTIs, and more.
So it is like having an urgent care at home.
Exactly. No waiting, no pharmacy, no copays. You feel better faster and avoid serious complications and hospitalizations.
How do you know what to take?
Just match your symptoms to the doctor-written guide or schedule a quick telehealth call.
Great advice. I understand ordering is fast online, and we've put the website and $45 off code on the screen. Thank you, doctor.
Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code news.
What's gold is new again. Pardon the pun. But considering gold has been used as currency since around 550 BC, it has been on fire the past year. I'm here with Daniel Boston, the founder of Preserve Gold. Why is gold so stable and such a good investment for many people?
Take the central bank, for example, the Federal Reserve. They print money out of thin air, and then they take that printed money to go buy hard assets like gold to protect themselves against the very risks that they're creating. So I always tell people, don't do what the big players are telling you to do. Do what they're doing themselves.
Yeah, watch what they're doing.
That's correct.
Okay. If people are interested in investing with Preserve Gold, how do they get started?
Text Newsmax to 50505 to get your free information and up to $15,000 in free gold and silver with a qualified purchase. That's right. Text Newsmax to 50505.
All right. No way you can miss it.
Buying a new car? You need WeatherTech. Perhaps a nice used car. You need WeatherTech. Or maybe you're still driving Old Faithful. You need WeatherTech. No matter the age of your vehicle, American-made WeatherTech products are the solution. Because masses don't care what year your vehicle is. See? You do need WeatherTech. Order your American-made protection at WT.com.
Stop. Check this out. Our most advanced performance frame, Talon, is out. It's a bestseller. We just got it back in stock, and I want to show you a little bit about it. This frame is an 8-base wrap, so it's going to sit close to your face, give you wide peripheral vision, stay on tight, but it also has a squared off lens for a versatile everyday look. And then you have comfort fit adjustable rubber nose pads for secure fit as well. These come with our signature lost and broken protection, and you can try them risk-free for 30 days. Check them out at shadyrays.com.
If you still have bad breath by lunchtime, your mouthwash isn't working. Smart Mouth is the only mouthwash that prevents bad breath for 24 hours. This is the only mouthwash I recommend. Upgrade your mouthwash to Smart Mouth today and never have bad breath again.
Just how fragile is a ceasefire with Iran? Well, today Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu says a ceasefire, quote, could turn on a dime, end quote. That's according to multiple Hebrew media reports. Prime Minister Netanyahu also said that Israel supports President Trump's decision to impose a naval blockade on Iranian ports. Foreign policy advisor, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Ophir Falk, joins me. Nice to talk to you, sir. And since you are in Israel and it's past sundown there, we are now into Remembrance Day of the Holocaust in Israel. It's past sundown there. And I think it's just worth noting it's a day that we should all recognize.
Thank you. Thank you, Greta. Absolutely.
Turning to what's going on in the blockade, I suppose that, I mean, I saw that Prime Minister Netanyahu supports it. Have you seen any sort of reaction or response in the Middle East today to it besides what we're seeing here?
Right. Obviously, the Prime Minister said that Israel fully supports the President's decision for the blockade, and I think it's having a very good effect. And it'll help with the negotiations and until Iran concedes to what they agreed upon, which is to open the Straits.
Do you think, I mean, in your wildest dreams, I mean, this whole business about the nuclear weapons, in your wildest dreams, do you ever see Iran agreeing not to have nuclear weapons, not to enrich?
Well, I think the world should simply demand, that Iran give up the material, and that could end the war if they give up the material. At any rate, as the President has said and as the Prime Minister has said, we'll either reach our objectives through an agreement or through other methods.
Well, I'd be better if I were an optimist than a pessimist, but I go back to October when the agreement was made with Hamas, and step 2 was that it would abandon its weapons. Well, we're now in April, and Hamas has not given up its weapons. You know, these people, these people who are such militant zealots, they agree to things, but they don't follow through. So, you know, there's no history of agreement.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Greta. They always lie. Iran always lies, and if you don't hold them accountable to what they committed to, they'll lie again and again and again. We've seen that for 47 years. 47 years they've been saying, they've been calling death to America, death to Israel, and they've killed thousands of Americans and Israelis and tens of thousands of Iranians on their streets. And whenever they had to commit or were forced to commit to something, they would simply commit and then lie about it. That's their history.
You know, so many people. I mean, everyone I talk to, with the exception of a few countries, say that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. It's just unacceptable. The world can't have it be catastrophic. And then when I ask them what the solution is, they say diplomacy or mediation. And I think to myself, you know, we've been trying. I mean, like, why is it that they think? Why do you think they think we can talk Iran out of a nuclear weapon?
Well, I think perhaps we have a different situation now because Iran is weaker than they've ever been, and Israel and the United States, of course, is stronger than we've ever been. We've hit Iran like they've never been hit for about 40 days. We've taken out all of their key leadership, the regime's leadership. We've taken out thousands of their missiles. We've taken hundreds of their launchers and their key nuclear scientists, and they are more or less on their knees now. This is the point where they have to decide: do they agree to give the material and the other demands, or we'll do that in other means, just like the president has been saying.
The protesters were out in December and January, and they were asking for the help from the United States. Do you have any information about it? Are there any protesters taking to the street, or are they just living in fear, trying to survive with everything that's been destroyed around them? They don't want to get shot? Or do you have any information on the people who, do they still feel they want America's help?
Well, when they went to the streets, they got slaughtered by this by the Ayatollah regime. They got slaughtered in the streets there. And what we've been doing for the past 40 days is we've been creating the conditions for the Iranian people to once again grasp their freedom in their own hands by degrading the Iranian regime's capabilities significantly on all fronts, on the nuclear front, on the ballistic missile front, on the leadership front. But it's not over yet. We're at a turning point. It's not over. We're at a turning point right now that either they agree to give over the material, or again, we're going to have to do it by other means. In the whole world, it should just simply tell Iran, give the material and you can end the war. You don't give the material and you won't end the war.
Well, every time, I'm always reminded when I've talked and interviewed your prime minister a number of times, he always points out to me in my interviews, and he's right, he said, this is not a war with the Iranian people. This is a war with the Iranian regime. And so let's hope that we can get this to an end quickly and the world is safer. Ophir Falk, thank you for joining me, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Greta. Thank you very much.
Meanwhile, President Trump has been dealt a legal blow. Today, a federal judge dismissed the president's $10 billion defamation lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal. Back in July, the Wall Street Journal published an article reporting on President Trump's alleged ties to Jeffrey Epstein. It included a bawdy letter, allegedly from the president, to Epstein. Around the letter was a hand-drawn, explicit photo of a woman. The Journal said the letter had the president's signature with the name Donald. The letter was allegedly included in a 2003 album compiled for Epstein's 50th birthday. President Trump denied both, writing the letter and drawing the bawdy picture. The president then filed the lawsuit against the Wall Street Journal for publishing it. He called the story, quote, false, malicious, and defamatory, end quote. That letter was eventually released by Congress. In his dismissal, Judge Darren Gales wrote, quote, whether President Trump was the author of the letter or Epstein's friend are questions of fact that cannot be determined at this stage of the litigation. To prove a defamation claim, public figures plaintiffs must show that the defendant made the alleged defamatory statements with actual malice, end quote. Now, actual malice means that the publisher, here the Wall Street Journal, knew the statement was false and acted with disregard in verifying the truth of the statement. The judge did not give the president the judge did give the president the option to file an amended complaint. At this time, neither the White House nor Wall Street Journal has commented. Coming up, a Democratic lawmaker drops out of governor's race in California. Why? Sexual misconduct allegations that he denies, but are his fellow colleagues in Congress already working towards his removal from Congress? That when the record continues.
The April 15th tax deadline is approaching. Sorry. But before you file with the IRS, you might want to take a look at this book. It's called Deduct Everything, and it explains the impact of the Trump-era tax cuts along with a wide range of deductions and tax-saving strategies. Now, these tax law changes brought significant updates, and you could potentially save thousands of dollars with the right approach to your tax filing. A lot has changed in recent years, including the standard deduction, estate tax thresholds, business deductions, and retirement strategies. So it's important to understand what legal loopholes you can take advantage of. Deduct Everything is available in bookstores and on Amazon, but you can also check out our free offer right here at Newsmax. You won't be disappointed, so be sure to get a copy. It's not just helpful for this April 15th, it can also help you start planning ahead for next year. Deduct Everything, that's the name of the book. Be sure to check it out.
I switched.
I switched. I switched.
I switched to Newsmax.
Newsmax. Newsmax.
Have you made the switch?
You bet I did. My whole family switched.
Millions are switching to Newsmax. You should too.
Falls are the #1 cause of injury to senior citizens. Falling downstairs can be disastrous. Acorn Stair Lifts has the solution. Just don't fall. Sit, relax, ride with an Acorn Stair Lift, the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right, don't let limited mobility keep you from going up and down your stairs, even outside. Call Acorn Stair Lifts now for a free information kit and no obligation quote. Now you can safely ride with your Acorn Stair Lift.
Now I don't have to worry about him climbing those stairs anymore.
And our Acorn Stair Lift was very affordable.
Our Acorn Stair Lift is definitely more affordable than moving.
The Acorn Stair Lift has a padded seat and backrest for maximum comfort. It easily folds up for access to the stairway. 5 safety sensors stop your Acorn Stair Lift if there is something in the way. And it even runs during power outages.
I am king of my castle again.
You'll be working directly with the world's leader in stair lifts. That's right, there's no middleman. Acorn's trained technicians professionally install your stair lift directly to the staircase. In most cases, in 2 hours or less. There's no need for special construction. We don't leave until you're completely comfortable using your Acorn stair lift.
Don't risk a serious fall going down the stairs.
I was really surprised at how little it cost.
Call for your free no-obligation information kit and quote from Acorn Stair Lifts. Just don't fall. Safely ride up and down your steps.
Give your life a lift with Acorn Stair Lifts.
Call 1-800-908-4077 right now for your free information kit or visit our website today. That number again is 1-800-908-4077. Call now.
At Allegiance, we do it differently. Flags 100% made in America by Americans with American materials.
We're proud to create jobs right here in South Carolina. It might not be the easiest way, but it's the right way.
We make American flags the way they should be made, where they should be made.
Join our pledge to keep the American flag truly American.
Visit showallegiance.com to get your high-quality American flag today. That's showallegiance.com.
Hi, I'm Elmer Heinrich here with my son Rocky. Now, our company sells Immuno 150, an incredible nutritional supplement that contains 70 plant minerals and 80 additional nutrients.
That's right, Dad. Amino 150 has much more nutritional value than the average supplement because of the 150 ingredients that include the 70 minerals. The benefits are outstanding.
I suggest you try Immuno 150 so you can experience the difference that 70 minerals can make in your life.
Don't kibble your dog.
Hey, Dr. Marty.
Hey, back.
What's wrong with this?
Let's check it out. It's still kibble, which means they're ultra-processed. At Dr. Marty, we freeze-dried premium meats, fruits, and vegetables, and it's available at your local pet store.
Today, the House Ethics Committee opened an investigation into the alleged misconduct of Representative Eric Swalwell. He is accused of sexual assault. Over the weekend, as calls heated up for him to quit the race for governor of California, the candidate did just that. He withdrew from the race. The allegations of sexual misconduct include a woman who worked for him in 2019. Swalwell denies the allegations, and he says he will fight them. Here's part of what Swalwell said.
These allegations of sexual assault are flat false. They're absolutely false. They did not happen. They have never happened. And I will fight them with everything that I have.
His rival, Republican Steve Hilton, had a few words about Congressman Swalwell quitting the race for governor.
This just goes to show that this entire Democrat machine in California, it is collapsing into corruption and sleaze and scandal and chaos. And that is why we are going to kick them out this year. I'm the leading candidate for governor, and we're going to lead California into a beautiful new golden future.
Meanwhile, could bipartisan fury over sexual allegations against Swalwell now spill over and drive other lawmakers out of Congress? In other words, could there be a purge in Congress of members accused of bad behavior? Representative Anna Paulina Luna of Florida would like to have that purge. In a post on X, the representative wrote, quote, "I'm filing a motion to expel Eric Swalwell from Congress," end quote. Luna has also said she will support a resolution to oust Representative Tony Gonzalez of Texas. The Republican admitted to an affair with a former staffer, but the list doesn't end there. There are other lawmakers who could face an expulsion vote. We're going to see where things go and what happens in the race for California governor. National political correspondent for Real Clear Politics, Susan Crabtree, joins me. Nice to talk to you, and tell me about the sexual allegation of Swalwell. I get a little bit nervous when there are allegations out there and everybody seizes on it, and we haven't had a chance to give the guy, a chance. It may very well be true, I don't know, but what can you tell me about this?
Well, you had the one staffer come forward to the San Francisco Chronicle, and that was bad enough because she's alleging that she ended up naked and intoxicated in his bed, woke up the next morning and realized didn't even remember what had happened. But then she did it again another time a few years later when she wasn't a staffer for Swalwell. The first incident happened when she was 21. But then you had CNN reporting later on Friday afternoon that another person that had approached Swalwell about a Democratic job prospect, another woman, same thing happened to her. She had drinks with him. She ends up in his hotel room, allegedly, after being intoxicated, and she feels like there was a sexual encounter there. So yes, everyone deserves, innocent until proven innocent until proven guilty.
All right,
But-
if you're so drunk, if you get a date rape drug, for instance, you can't consent. That you can't consent under those, or if you're underage, you can't consent. Is there any? I mean, there's two different types of bad conduct here. One is that some people find appalling is cheating on his wife if he's married. That in this city that apparently is not a disqualifier. The other is whether or not there was a crime committed. And so I guess I'm a little bit. That's where I wonder, did he commit a crime? Is there an investigation he actually committed a crime or not?
Yeah, that's what people are wanting to find out. And that's why the Manhattan DA has opened an investigation and called for more evidence, if anyone has evidence to come forward. But politically speaking, this is a nightmare for both Democrats nationwide and those in California, as well as the powerful unions who now have to figure out how they regroup and who are they going to back. With two Republicans ahead in the race, there is a chance. A Democratic political operative has put that chance at about 17 to 20%, that two Republicans could move forward, Steve Hilton and Chad Bianco. And this is not helping matters for the Democratic side. It could help Katie Porter and Tom Steyer, the two leading Democrats, consolidate more support as they vacuum up the support that was going to Mr. Swalwell. But it's kind of a jump ball. It's anybody's game at this point, unless the unions and people like Adam Schiff, the senator, and Nancy Pelosi start getting behind one candidate, and that hasn't happened.
All right, don't get me started on Adam Schiff, because I didn't like the fact that he used to come out and say that he had all this evidence when he was chair of the House Intel Committee, and I never saw the evidence he claimed to have. So Adam Schiff doesn't have a lot of stock with me, who is the Democratic senator from California, but apparently does with people in California. They elected him. Susan Crabtree, thank you.
Thanks so much, Greta.
Coming up, a blow to a key Trump ally. Which one? That when the record continues.
As Americans, we're fair and logical. 83% of us favor requiring a photo ID to vote. In fact, most of the civilized world requires it, but not us. We need to be able to trust that only eligible Americans are casting ballots. Democrats oppose voter ID for no coherent reason. Republicans favor it but haven't acted. What are they waiting for? Call your United States senators and tell them to pass the Save America Act today.
I wish I wasn't afraid to smile.
I wish I could get implants.
I wish I knew who to trust.
I'm not looking for another quick fix.
I want a smile I know will last.
Clear Choice smiles are made to stand the test of time. They're built by dental implant experts, backed by 20 years of pioneering research and a lifetime warranty on premium arches. Our smiles are built for life. Schedule your free consultation today.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work, try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Order online and save $45. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. Visit urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS. That's urgentcarekit.com/news, promo code NEWS.
Another lost summer scrolling and swiping? Another lost spring break? Turns out, the fix is right here. Create new lifetime memories from the comfort of your backyard. No passports, no reservations. Latham's premium handcrafted pools are ultra durable for any climate. Can be installed in weeks, not months. And have hundreds of designs, sizes, and colors to choose from. For 70 years, Latham Pool has remained the gold standard in bringing backyard dreams to life. Our pools are easy to care for, won't stain or crack, and never require costly resurfacing. And with flexible financing options, your dream is within reach. And with our crystal finish, you can bring your favorite exotic watercolor and shimmer right to your own backyard. It's never too early to start planning for a lifetime of memories. Visit LathamPool.com now.
Latham is a proud sponsor of USA Artistic Swimming.
A major blow to a key Trump ally in the European Union. Yesterday, Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban conceded his re-election bid for Prime Minister. He lost to Hungary's opposition leader, Peter Magyar. This means Orban's 16-year term as Prime Minister has come to an end. Orban is a key ally to both Russian President Vladimir Putin and President Trump. He even received an endorsement from Trump. Last week, Vice President J.D. Vance went to Hungary to headline a rally for Orban. Orban has been a critic of the European Union. He recently vetoed a $90 billion euro loan to Ukraine. Earlier today, EU President Ursula von der Leyen commented about Hungary's election.
The people of Hungary have spoken and they have reclaimed their European path. It is a victory for fundamental freedoms. And I really want to say to the Hungarian people, you've done it again. Against all odds, our union is stronger. Our union is more united.
Earlier, I spoke with High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy and Vice President of the European Union and the former Prime Minister of Estonia, Kaja Kallas. You have a very important job right now, but before that, you were the first Prime Minister, female Prime Minister of Estonia, and while Prime Minister, Russia issued an arrest warrant for you. You seem like you're pretty tough and that it hasn't rattled you at all. Is that a fair description?
Well, that's quite fair, yes.
Why did they issue an arrest warrant for you?
Well, they don't like what I'm saying because I'm calling for, international law to be followed and calling out what they're doing. So that's why, this is how they operate. But this is the usual toolbox that the Russians have. It is in order to intimidate, so that I would refrain from, doing the things that I would otherwise do.
Well, I don't think it's had much effect because you've been out there being quite bold ever since the arrest warrant. All right, turning now to Estonia has a border with Russia of about 200 miles, I think. And you've got the situation where you have Ukraine and the war. You've been very strong in getting support for Ukraine. Can you give me some idea of the status of the war between Ukraine and Russia right now?
Yes, well, the situation on the battlefield is quite, frozen, meaning that Ukrainians have actually conquered back some territories, but there is not much movement. We see that Russians are losing a lot of people on the battlefield, and actually their recruitment rate is less than their actual losses. So they're not doing great on the battlefield. When it comes to the economic side, then they're not doing their great either, although the war in Iran is, of course, helping them because the majority of their funding for this war is coming from the oil revenues, and the oil price hike is actually helping them. But more than that, the negotiations have not led anywhere. They are really stalled. There's not much happening there because Russia has not, stepped away from their maximalist goals, and of course, Ukraine and also Europe cannot accept that.
Well, Viktor Orban, who is the soon-to-be former Prime Minister of Hungary, lost. He vetoed a $90 billion loan, as I recall, to Ukraine. So I take it that's going to change a little bit of the dynamics in terms of what the EU is going to do in terms of supporting Ukraine?
Well, definitely. If the 90 billion loan is granted to Ukraine, then it would give them, 2 years of funding for their defense. So it would put them in a stronger position. That's very clear. And we have other issues on the table, like stronger sanctions on Russia to really curb those oil revenues that they use for funding this war. So it could be a breaking point also for this war.
All right. I take it you're in agreement with almost every world leader except for a couple that Iran should not have a nuclear weapon. I assume you agree with that, do you not? All right.
Absolutely.
Based on that,
absolutely. I mean,
what would you recommend that we do? Because this is a tough problem that the whole world is grappling with. There's now a new blockade that's going to impact the price. But what would you do?
Well, this is not only the nuclear issue that is actually, worrying, but also the ballistic missile program. I mean, their support for proxies, the overall stability in the Middle East that is affecting everybody around. So of course, we are supportive of the negotiations, of the diplomatic solution to actually come to the table and find a solution, because Iran is not going away, and we can't end up in a situation where they are more dangerous to the region after this war is over.
I'm all for diplomatic agreements, too, and solving that way, but we've been so unsuccessful. So at what point do you finally give up on the diplomatic? Because, what I'm told by someone who was actually negotiating with Iran is they said that they had 60% uranium enrichment. They were 10 days away from having enough to make 10 bombs. So when I heard that, and they don't want to get rid of their 60% enrichment, what are we to do?
Well, this has been also stated already. I don't know how many years, that they are 10 days away from putting this nuclear bomb together. But I think we really need to see that there is agreement in the end, because otherwise, it just doesn't work. I mean, it was we heard some time ago that the nuclear program is totally obliterated and bombed to the ground, and then apparently it wasn't, although we haven't seen any proof of that. But eventually, what was the mistake the previous time when we had this agreement is that the regional countries were not listened to. I mean, the countries around Iran know Iran better than anybody. So in order to have a successful outcome of the diplomacy, you need to listen really and engage the regional actors that actually know how to deal with this.
Well, thank you very much for joining me. And I'm just going to take the last word. It's probably a little bit unfair, but some of those nations certainly don't like Iran and certainly want that taken care of. So, and I think they're more with the military at this point than not. But I'll take the last word on that. I hope you will come back.
Okay, thank you.
Coming up, who was the most excited to see the Artemis 2 astronauts return to Earth? Start guessing that video when the record continues.
You know Rob Finnerty. He's smart, bold, and stands strong for your values. Rob is fighting for you. Watch Finnerty weeknights only on Newsmax.
Every day, bumps and bangs happen. Bruises are optional. Use daily dermatologist-recommended Dermend and reduce the appearance of bruises. Get Dermend Moisturizing Bruise Cream in the first aid aisle.
For pain in multiple spots like here, here, or here, Salonpas patches stick firmly and remove comfortably once your pain is gone. Salonpas. It's good medicine.
Healthy aging support starts here with the innovative nitric oxide science pioneered by Human, supporting your body from the heart out through circulation, blood flow, blood pressure, and energy. Results you can feel, science you can trust. Get started today at human.com.
Hey, also, I just downloaded the Experian app because I wanted to check my FICO score, but it does so much more. This thing shows you your FICO score, you can get your credit card recommendations, and it shows you ways to save money.
Do so much more than get your FICO score. Download the Experian app now.
Oh no, is this the episode with the breakup?
Reba, we can't agree on the house.
Y'all need Realtor.com. With over 500,000 new listings every month, you could find the one today. This could be it. Better put a key ring on it. Realtor.com.
Forget the warm-up. DirecTV got hot. They're on fire with more MLB games than anyone.
Welcome to the big leagues, kid.
How old are you?
11.
If your dog struggles with stiff joints, low energy, messy poops, or an itchy coat, the cause might be sitting in your dog's food bowl right now. Kibble. That's why we created Badlands Ranch Superfood Complete, gently air-dried, packed with real canine superfoods to help your dog unlock puppy-like energy, smoother digestion, healthier joints, shinier coats, and more. Thousands have already made the switch. Visit your local pet food retailer today.
Think you need a new roof? Think again and save thousands. We'll help you put off the high cost of a roof replacement for at least 5 years.
Or 10.
Or sometimes even 15.
We're America's most trusted roofer because we always try to save your roof rather than replace it.
We'll restore your roof for a fraction of the cost of a new one. But don't wait. If your roof loses too much protective coating, it's too late. Call now or scan the code and we'll give you an assessment of your roof for free.
What if your GLP-1 for weight loss was as easy to take as a mint? Small, discreet, and easy. Think about that, no needles. This is compounded tirzepatide, a mint-flavored tablet designed to fit into your daily routine. You simply let it dissolve under your tongue. No mixing, filling, or storing your own syringes. Tirzepatide helps curb appetite and supports healthier eating by reducing cravings, including for sweets and carbs. And when your appetite feels under control, it can make it easier to eat less and move intentionally towards your weight loss goals. If weight loss has been on your mind, this may be the needle-free option you've been looking for, a simple daily tablet, as easy to take as a mint. Getting started is fast and surprisingly accessible. Just complete a quick online physician consultation. Here's how.
Save $50 with promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim. That's promo code SLIM at noneedles.com/slim.
On Friday, the world watched as NASA's Artemis II crew returned to Earth. Well, everyone watched except for me. As an aside, I had to miss the splashdown because just as the splashdown was just inches from happening, we had the worst cat fight between my cats, Jack and Nick. It erupted. You probably could hear it in your home. I had to rush to break it up, so I missed the splashdown. But anyway, on the Artemis 10-day journey, the astronauts traveled to the far side of the moon and back. Their families patiently waited their safe return. But one astronaut, Christina Cook, had an especially impatient family member waiting for her, her dog. She shared the sweet video of when she reunited with her dog after her trip. Boy, was she excited. What a happy dog. She also shared the video of the two of them playing on the beach. Maybe my cats can learn from the happiness of the dog. They hate each other. It's a problem in our house. Thanks for watching. Ed Henry, The Big Take is next. Stay with Newsmax.